Hopefulness 2.0, day 22. So that that pill I swallowed yesterday before I started recording everything, it was stuck somewhere inside of my throat, and I'm guessing it was somewhere around here. And the reason I know that is because later when I took a shower and I was coughing up, crap that I normally cough up when I'm in the shower, I coughed up part of, actually a pretty good chunk of the capsule out exterior, because it never made it to my stomach, despite consuming various foods and drinks and stuff. It just never got unlodged until I started coughing the crap out. So that's the thing that happened yesterday. Like I said, that kind of shit happens a lot. I mean, I say a lot, a couple times a year maybe. Oh man. Let's go ahead and just use you, since why the hell not? I open this up and it just smells so good. Like, more than anything, it's the glaze. Like, the glaze just smells awesome. It tastes awesome. I mean, obviously it should. It's tomato paste with some vinegar and some sugar in it, and it's been baked up a bit to kind of get a little thicker and more flavorful and get that Maillard reaction in there a bit too. So yeah, it's pretty fucking good. Oh man. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention yesterday, and I might as well mention it today, because it's relevant, is that I watched Bicentennial Man again, and it really does hold up. It's great. It's a beautiful story. And I would say that, in a way, so they say that there's like 7 total stories, man against something. And in this one, it's very much kind of a man against society. And the man in this case is not an actual man. And if you will, it reaches meta levels because of the fact that it is a robot trying to become a man. And how even the audience might interpret it and would probably even hate it because of the fact that it is a robot trying to become a man. I need to rewatch AI. It's been a long time since I've seen that one. In it, like, it's man versus society, like I said, but it's man versus this society too, if you will, because our society is definitely one that would not accept a robot trying to become a man. I mean, in doing so, that it's an implication in the film, and of course they even make that a point. I would say that story structure wise, it's a little different than most, because the inciting incident, at least to me, isn't exactly clear, because it's such a gradual thing. It's I mean, you could say the inciting incident is the fact that he shows up at the beginning, because that's where the story is. That's what happens. You could say the inciting incident is when because he's a robot and because he follows the 3 laws of robotics from Asimov's series, that by jumping out of the window and potentially destroying himself through the command of one of his owners, that's the inciting incident. And I would say that might actually be it, really. Because the dad, Sam Neill, he's like, from now on, we're going to treat Andrew, the droid, because it's NDRU or NDR something. I think it's NDRU. That's what they call him, Andrew. As if he were a person. Now, sure, he's owned by them. He's still a robot. But there's these steps that happen throughout the story that are like that, where, you know, he accidentally breaks this glass horse of one of the daughters. And he then takes it upon himself to go find some driftwood, which, one thing I was saying throughout the whole movie, I was like, there's a lot of fucking driftwood near this house. I mean, there is a ton of driftwood. And there's so much of it, in fact, that he ends up making a goddamn business later on, building clocks and shit. And then he builds a whole fucking house. Like, what the fuck? Why is there so much driftwood in this place? So it's like, it's a bit absurd. It's funny, though. I mean, it's a drama, comedy, it's a dramedy. And, you know, there's all these various stages of him becoming more and more human-like, or showcasing human capabilities with its curiosity, creativity, etc. Empathy, you know, making the wooden horse for Little Miss. And, you know, there becomes this emotional attachment between him and Little Miss. And you know, the original Little Miss, she's all like, I say original, there's only one. She's falling in love with him. And, you know, because he showcases these traits that are valuable and important to her. It is a show of, it is a movie about humanity. Now, obviously, it's about the good side of it. You know, there's nobody trying to tear him apart or anything of that nature. It's just his story of self-discovery and becoming human. And it's wonderful. It's a great story. And I mean, sure, it doesn't have your typical, you know, action-packed conflict, because it's thought-provoking. Instead of being spectacle, and instead of the conflict being right there on the screen, it's, if anything, it kind of creates conflict within you, as the viewer, to appreciate what it is about being human. It's very much like the episode of Star Trek TNG where they're like, Data is on trial to determine if he is a sentient being, if he is something that is more than just a robot, just more than just an android. And it's fascinating content. I love seeing that because it speaks to us as humans beyond what it is, you know, beyond, you know, our simplistic understanding of humanity. And that's kind of what I was hoping the stories of Chappie and Alita Battle Angel were going to be. Now, I watched Alita last night. And for a film that is spectacle and all that stuff, yeah, it's good. You know, there's a lot of entertaining elements to it and everything, but it it feels like it pushes the story too quickly. There's so little time for anything to simmer. And again, the trailer is what sold me on this Bicentennial Man-esque movie. Like, if they truncated it and said, okay, we're going to make this into like a 3-parter, and we end it on her getting the new body, because she starts off with the one body that, Christoph Waltz's character, Dr. Ito, builds, and, it was his daughter's body, and then she was killed, home invasion, essentially, and, so he's projecting on her, and that's relationship stuff, but you get no time with it. Like, it doesn't, you get so little time with that for it to simmer, for it to build, for it to become important. It's like, she's exposition bot because she's got amnesia, and, she's 300-year-old technology from a war that doesn't even exist anymore. And I mean, like, what was it? There was a line said by this just kind of like offshoot character. She was part of this crew, and so Alita shows up. She's being, Mary Sue because she's just a badass robot. And I'm gonna take it back to Bicentennial Man. He's very much a Mary Sue too, but it feels more natural, because instead of him just being a badass, he learned how to be a badass. Obviously he's a robot, so he's able to do it faster, but he learned how to do these things. He took time to learn how to do these things. He acquired this knowledge from other people who already had this knowledge, and then was able to extrapolate from that information and create from it. So while yes, he is Mary Sue in that situation, he's really not, because it's not just innate. He can just do whatever the fuck he feels like. He's innate at being an immensely powerful learner. And he even showcases humility throughout the whole thing, thinking that it might not be the best. And so not only is he extremely good at learning and then utilizing that ability, what he has learned, but then he still has that human element in him that says it may still not be good enough. And that's really important, I think. Because again, it makes it more relatable. Because the average person's like that. We go through life learning everything that we do, and yet we still question our abilities. Alita's is completely opposite. She questions nothing about herself, other than she just wants to learn more about who she is. And the more she learns, she just automatically, there's no, like, there's such a contrast between who she's acting like and who she is. She's acting like a petulant teenager, which is fine. Character-wise, it's a great archetype to work with. But rarely does she ever show humility. And that's one problem I have with it, is that, yeah, a petulant teenager is probably never going to showcase humility, but they should in film. That's the thing about film. It's like, she has no internal conflicts whatsoever. None. She's this growing person showcasing some manner of humility, of humanity, but it's all external. It's all superfluous. It's all superficial. And while I get, the sort of rebellious and impetuous behavior of that petulant teenager who's trying to become their own thing and all that stuff, it doesn't sell well as human. And because of the way her face looks as well, with the whole big eyes and everything, and I like me some anime, I like me some manga, I don't mind that, but thematically speaking, you don't want something that looks human-esque to act non-human. If you want your audience to feel a connection with them. Now you might say, well, all of these behaviors are human. Yes, they are. But it is a film, it is a story, and it is about someone learning who they are and growing and making decisions. She makes no fucking mistakes, really. Like, that's another thing. There's only one real point in the whole film whereby her action is effectively a mistake, but then still isn't a mistake in the end. So, after she's gone through enough of her rebellious stages, she's learning more and more about the fact that she is this warrior person. With, again, no humility, which really sucks. If anything, there's so many things that I deleted it off of my computer this morning. After I watched it and I went to bed, I was like, I'm done. I don't care about this story anymore. I don't care about this film. Because it's just an action-packed movie that had this really solid idea. And it's like, I can't bring myself to watch it again. Just like I said the other day, I was like, I don't want to watch it. I didn't. I enjoyed parts of it, but it just felt so fucking hollow, man. And, going back to what I was trying to say about the story. The first act, that kind of bleeds into the second act, where she's just like discovering all this stuff. That would have been a better film if it was just that part. If it was just her self-discovery, learning about society, learning about Zalem, learning about Nova, seeing some of the underhanded stuff, that helps. And then discovering the body, and then maybe even having her body torn up like it was, and then being, inserted in a new body, and then, okay, that's the end of the first chapter, if you will, type movie. I feel like that would have been a better film, because you would have had time to give it breathing room, give her time to grow and understand and be humility. Now, again, I haven't read the source. I don't know if that's how it works, but I'll tell you, she's probably more relatable in the manga. And if she's not, then the other characters are. But it's so hard. Because there's so many characters. Dr. Ito, you have his assistant who's just kind of there. But it'd be interesting to see why she has a cyberized arm. And then, you get, there's a lot of exposition. And that's one of the failings of sci-fi. Is there's usually a lot of exposition. There was no exposition, really, in Bicentennial Man. The only real exposition was, I mean, but it felt natural. Really did. Like, if there was exposition, and I'm sure there is, you know, I mean, yeah, there's a point where, okay, here's a spot. So they just kind of cut away after he jumps out of the building, out of the house, the second floor, injures himself and everything, and then there's the family meeting and all that shit. Soon after, Sam Neill's character, the dad, aka Sir, has a conversation with him, and he's like, and that's where babies come from. That's like the beginning of the scene. And he's just awestruck of all this information. And it's adorable. There's this robot that, for all intents and purposes, looks like an adult male, but I mean, it still looks like a robot. And it's learning these things and showing this curiosity and showing this innocence, and it's like, it's endearing, and it makes you care about him. And so throughout the whole film, everything that he's doing makes you care about him and his message and his mission, rather. I don't get that with Alita. I don't care about her. That's the thing. I don't care about her. I'm just realizing it now. As I record this, I don't care about her. And that's a problem. Like, okay, during the midpoint, if you will, and it's not even really much of a midpoint because you're like, oh, hey, there's a backup. So she goes to this bounty hunter bar, right? And she's all like, trying to give it a super, she's being impetuous, and she can't fucking read the room for shit. And it's because she's a Mary Sue. And that's the biggest fucking problem with it. Her head's so far up her own ass, and she's trained and taught that she's special, and like everything she's learning and any piece of information she learns through these little flashbacks and stuff because of her amnesia, she's just like, I'm a badass. I'm more of a badass. I'm even more of a badass than I thought I was. It's like, it's ego personified. And it is so hard to care about a character who's like that. I mean, yeah, you go get some teenagers who feel exactly the same way she does, and yeah, they'll relate to her. But I feel like if you make her actually struggle, and not just with a somewhat domineering parent figure who is trying to be protective of her, but like dealing with real issues that a real person deals with. A sense of identity, a sense of belonging, a sense of community and companionship and the like. She gets everything she wants. She has no conflict. The only conflict is just people slowing her down, really. That's it. That's all there really is. And she takes really no... alright, there's a moment where she wants to learn more about herself after she gets this body. And she throws a fucking tantrum, busting a fucking table, and then Dr. Year's like, alright, I guess I'll go ahead and tell you some more. She gets what she wants. with virtually no effort. Because she throws a fucking tantrum. She's Karen. She's a fucking Karen. Instead of trying to be human, instead of trying to, go in some other direction that's, whether it's trying to be convincing or persuasive or anything like that. It's basically just a fucking Karen. This whole film. That's why I don't give a shit about her. And she's the Karen who gets everything she fucking wants. For sure, sometimes it feels, oh, hell, that was badass. But, and one of the things I was mentioning earlier is like, there's a side character. So, the dude she ends up falling in love with has like this crew that he hangs out with. And the four of them all together, they're the ones that go and find the body. Now, she's the one that really finds the body because she, finds this ship from the war that happened 300 years ago. But this dude that's part of the crew, he's still not cool with her. He's like, he ain't good with androids, and then, find out that she was effectively part of the enemy, for all intents and purposes. And so he's just not cool with her whatsoever. And the girl, who has like almost no lines, she's basically like, look, it was 300 years ago, get over it. Like, that right there could have been how she was defining herself. Not necessarily because that person said that, but conceptually. Who she was 300 years ago is totally different than who she is now. And Dr. Ito even tries to do that. He tries to basically say, look, you don't have to be this. You can just be a little girl, whatever. I mean, I get it. He's got his own things and everything, but nothing convinces her to change her path. And again, I get it. Teenagers, they do that stuff. I was a teenager. I know how it is. But here's the problem. The vast majority of teenagers who go through that kind of behavior, who go through that kind of phase, fall hard and don't get the kind of recovery she did. They get what happened to her. She gets her fucking body mangled. And then there's a lesson learned. Or they get their lives, their social lives, whatever. And then they have to slowly, over time, and through that experience, learn humility. Which, if she had fucking learned humility in that experience, it would have been a better story. It would have been a better second half of the fucking film. But she didn't. She just got a replacement body that made her more badass, and now it's time to be the ultra badass. And it's like, you're not relatable. As a human being, you're not fucking relatable. And that's why I don't really like the film. And there's just so many other things that are problematic. I'm just not going to go into because now I'm angry. And because I got a story per the trailer that it was like this human thing instead of this Mary Sue badass. I'm disappointed in it. And I want more movie. I want a movie to tell me what's going to be in the film. I don't want it spoilers. But I mean, hell, look at Interstellar. Look at Arrival. Even Annihilation. I need to rewatch Annihilation. I've only seen it once. But that's That's the thing about sci-fi, and especially about what you might classify as hard sci-fi, where they try to be real scientific about shit instead of it just being spectacle. Like, Bicentennial Man is kind of a semi-hard, it's non-Newtonian, fluid, if you will. Normally it's a bit fluidy and, liquidy and goopy, but if you hit it just right and hit it just hard with the right amount of force, it's hard. Even like Iron Man, this soft sci-fi, it's very spectacle oriented. Primer is probably about as hard as you get when it comes to fucking sci-fi. It's kind of a movie where if you don't know what you're getting yourself into watching that film, it's gonna drag your ass down. And it's so not about the characters. It's about the time travel and everything else. And I mean, it's a hard film to fucking watch. But I prefer hard sci-fi to a degree, of course. I mean, Dune was great. Dune is a great mixture of both. It's kind of like your semi-solid. It's like, it's kind of a science fiction fantasy, where things are almost magic. And a lot of things pretty much are magic. I mean, Benny Jesuit voice, it's basically magic. There's no information that tells you what it is, how it works. When you're dealing with the One, you're doing the prophetic thing, and it's always just fucking white boy, but it's whatever. There's not a lot of prophetic movies that deal with, a black boy or a black girl, or an indigenous boy or girl, or someone who's transgender or whatever. It's always a straight white boy. I think I'm gonna title this just humility. But, because with humility, you showcase struggle. And not just external struggle, but internal struggle. That conflict that reaches beyond just what's on the face value. And at the very least, like, with Dune and Paul Atreides, I had a convo with a friend of mine who has actually read the book, and he really liked the movie. Like, he really liked the adaptation, and like, I've never read the book, but based on the information that I have gleaned over the years, be it through other people or from pieces of information I've seen on the internet, etc., and watching the film and the older film, and then the miniseries from Sci-Fi, and having a friend who has read the book and who has who enjoyed both of them, and having had conversations with him as well, through the various paths of information that I have acquired. I was under the impression that it was a much better adaptation. Again, I had nothing to really truly fall on, but just the bits and pieces that I've been able to pick up over the years. That's what I felt like. And when I had mentioned watching it to my friend, he got excited and started talking about it, and he was like, yeah, it's like such a great adaptation of the book. Except for the end. I was like, yeah, would have been nice if it just kept going. And I was like, I think it's going to be a 3-part, but it's actually going to be a 2-part. And he's like, man, it should have been 4. It needs to be 4, I'm going to be mad. And I'm like, you mad, bro? So, but, it's nice to have, and that's another thing, same director as Arrival. Arrival is another human story within the world of science fiction. Interstellar, the human story within science fiction. Much more hard sci-fi. But, so, kind of going back to some of the basics, acting, writing, just storytelling in general. The characters need to feel human. Even if they aren't. Even if they are completely opposite of human. They need to feel human. Because the more you can humanize a character, the more the audience can relate to them. And then they will feel the drama itself. Instead of the drama being thrust upon them, they will experience it. Because then they can put themselves into the shoes of that person and say, holy shit, I don't even know how the hell I would deal with that. You know, one of the best villains is from Gladiator. Because he's human. He doesn't feel too much like a human, but feels like a monster, but he's still human. Actually, you know, the ones that it's okay. So actually, let me retract that. The ones that feel like monsters, it's easy to just identify them and hate them. The ones that create controversy, the ones that make people feel for the actual villain, that make them feel like this movie glorifies something. This movie is bad for us because as a society, because it's trying to make excuses. Those are the real characters. Joker. Yeah, it's kind of a fucking weird movie, and you know, there's some strange elements to it and some other shit, just plot holes and crap, but so my old roommate, back when I was living in the apartment at the Sober Living, he didn't want to watch the film. I don't know if he ever did, but he didn't want to watch the film because I could sense, so he gave me a reason, but through that reason, I could sense the truth. And part of it is, and it's a good argument, is that by telling Joker's origin story, you throw away the mystique of who he is. Because in so many ways, he's just chaos. He's just a straight up antithesis of Batman. And I get that. But at the same time, what the things that he didn't say, the subtext, if you will, of his commentary was that he didn't want to feel empathy for the Joker either. He doesn't want a person like the Joker to feel like a person. Because the Joker's a fucking monster. And I would say that's pretty typical of the average person. They don't want evil or chaos incarnate to be given a soul. Because if they are, they're going to feel conflicted. They're going to feel angry. They're going to feel like people are making excuses for them. They're going to feel like they're all the different commentary about Joker that happened. And you know, my interpretation of his comment is pretty spot on. But not about him, because as far as I know, he didn't watch it. But, and when I was done watching, I'm like, people are going to have some shit to say about this film. I don't know exactly what I said, but that's pretty much as close as what I thought. Because holy shit, man, when you make people empathize with somebody who's evil, cognitive dissonance kicks in real hard. they don't like it. But those are the more important stories, I feel. You know, there's a movie, I can't remember, I think it's King of Scotland? I don't remember. I think that's the name of it, but it's Forrest Whitaker, I believe, playing this evil fucking tyrant in Africa. Who was like a real person. And apparently that created a lot of controversy too, because he just wasn't a villain in the traditional sense of, you know, almost cartoonish. He was human. He had things he cared about. And the last thing somebody wants is to care about somebody who's evil. At least in this country, anyway. We want everything to be black and white. We want, you know, there to be a hard demarcation between right and wrong. And, you know, I get it when it comes to watching a movie. Sometimes you just want to escape. And that's one of the reasons why we have stupid ass fucking bills that are being placed, you know, put in place right now. The whole don't say gay thing. We don't want to feel uncomfortable. We don't want to ever feel uncomfortable, ever. You know why? Because we're always uncomfortable. All the fucking time. Because this place sucks. Most people hate their jobs. Most people hate their families for whatever fucking reason. For probably because I'm sure there's a number of reasons for that shit. But so the last thing they want is to have anything extra that might make them feel uncomfortable. But if you'll notice, a lot of times, especially in hero movies, the hero is an American. And if they're not American, and American's usually involved in the heroism in some way, and it falls back to American exceptionalism. This idea that we are the best, we're the greatest country on the planet. We're not. We're nowhere close. There's nothing exceptional about America. Oh, people will be like, why do people come over here when they want to do this, that, or the other? I don't know, I ask them. A lot of people go to other countries too, but you're so fucking caught up in the American exceptionalism, you can't think of other countries. You're incapable of empathy. You're incapable of thinking of other people, other countries, why they would do the things that they do. You have no humility. You can't accept the flaws. And that's one of the reasons why movies where an empathetic villain cause so much controversy. Because we don't like feeling uncomfortable. I mean, I'm sure that's not the only reason, of course. You know, and then there's the pearl clutchers who are all like, this is gonna influence people. It's like, no, it fucking got influenced by fucking media. They were already influenced by so many other fucking things. If anything, it was the straw that broke the camel's back. And those people are the worst when it comes to the pearl, you know, the won't be offended and all that shit. They're so easily offended by fucking everything because they're so goddamn miserable for whatever fucking reason. So they have to go onto this fucking righteous path to make sure nobody feels the way that they feel all the time. And I get it. You could say that's kind of noble, but when the end justifies the means, and the means is being a fucking terrible person, no, not so much. Or trying to turn it into some sort of puritanical fucking backwater goddamn country, no. The inconvenient truth of abortion and climate change and gun violence and violence towards people of color and inequality and all these things that are coming up. These things are inconvenient truths and they are uncomfortable. And oh my god, the gays and the transgenders, why would somebody cut off their penis? It's like, why is it they only talk about that part? Why don't they talk about the part where somebody transitions from female to male? Nobody seems to give a shit about that. Because who's the most important person in America? Straight white men. That's why every goddamn film, for the most part, has had that person as the leading character, as the hero. I go on and on about this shit. Because I just want good films, with good stories, and not so much good people, but a good character. Be they villain or hero. You know? Blur the lines. I don't give a fuck. I mean, people love the shit out of Deadpool, but he's what they call an anti-hero. And you don't want to be the anti-hero. You want to be the hero. And they even refrigerated his girl in the second film. Fridged, as they call it. Kill somebody off. Make that the whole purpose of the film. There you go. You got a story. First one was better. Second one was eh. But I'm done ranting. Have fun.